you that don't know, this is our morning blend team. This is Walt Gray,
Hi.
Kirsten Holmes, Rob Carmark, Brittany Bagley, and the one and only Marcus Allen. So I just want to introduce the cast of characters from our morning show, and thank you all for attending this morning. We have a pretty succinct presentation. We promise it we'll get you out of here around 10 o'clock. But first and foremost, I really want to thank you for investing the time and understanding this space that's relatively new and certainly exciting for all of us here within Tegna. So with that, we're going to start a video, and then I think we're going to roll on with the presentation. So thank you.
Thanks for being here.
ABC 10 has a revolutionary technology that'll help you make smarter buys based on real-world consumer actions, and I'm going to show you how. I see a commercial for a car, and I want to know more, so I go to the website and find a dealership. So how do we know it's your commercial that I just saw that's going to bring you my business? We know there's new technology that's light years ahead of the competition called Tegna Attribution. When a customer with a smart TV sees your ad, we know when they saw it, how many times they saw it, when they go to your website on any of their devices, we know. And when they drive to your business, we know. So can we really do this? Can ABC 10 prove TV and OTT's performance so you can make better buys? Yes, we can.
Well, thank you all for coming today. As you can see, this is a really exciting time for our industry. This technology is something that has not been available to us until now. And the great thing about it is we're just very thankful that Tegna has invested in this technology for you, our partners. So I wanted to introduce our guest today. We have Jessica Daigle, who's our Vice President of Sales Intelligence, and Peter Jones, who's our Senior Director of Strategic Partners from Premion. So I'm going to toss it over to you guys.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Does everyone just hate the front row?
Yeah. Should I sit up here, Peter?
So there we go. We got one person. All right. So obviously, I'm Peter. I'm with Premion. I've met quite a few of you with KXTV over the past, let's just say, a couple years. So attribution has really only gotten more difficult for us. Kind of how the media landscape has changed. So when we look up here, how many cord cutters do we have in the room? Okay, so about half. Okay. What about Netflix? I mean, come on, that's everybody, right? Okay. Amazon Prime? Who has cable or who has Dish? DirecTV is Dish. Yeah, DirecTV is Dish. We're going to have a how to cut the cord session after this. But what you're seeing is that kind of shift. I mean, it's harder and harder to find out, like, well, where are my media dollars being spent and how are they working? So we're definitely going to tie it into attribution and kind of the advances in technology and how that's going to be able to help you make better data-driven decisions on where your media spend is going to be going. To show you how even more fragmented it's getting is, can you all read those? I know it's kind of small print. So these are all headlines in the last 30 days. So on the left-hand side, who has an Apple TV? Have you noticed that now Apple TV streaming service is the first icon on your menu? Okay, so they just launched. Okay, that second one says Comcast, Spectrum, Verizon have lost over 1.7 million subscribers just in Q3. That is a massive shift that we're seeing. Disney Plus, anybody have kids? I've already subscribed for the year. Has anybody else? Okay, so they're actually launching November 12th. Obviously I know the date. They're going to partner with, now that is going to be an ad-free service, but they are going to partner with like Hulu Plus and ESPN Plus to also have available ad insertion. PlayStation View, anyone on PlayStation View in here? Okay, what services do we have? Who has like a sling? Any slingers? Come on, you're supposed to laugh at that. Slingers? YouTube TV? Hulu? YouTube TV? Hulu? Are we on Hulu Live, or are we watching Hulu just for Handmaid's Tale? That's good. We're not going to talk about that show. But if you look at Hulu with Handmaid's Tale, who watched Ozarks on Netflix? Pretty good show, right? Jack Ryan just had their second season come out on Amazon Prime, Prime Video. Does anyone have Prime Video? I just named 3 different platforms with 3 different original content. So now you're going to start to see that subscription fatigue come in, because now we're going to multiple places to consume media. Okay, so how are we going to be able to fit that into an attribution model? So PlayStation View just shut their doors last week. Sony just said we're not getting into the the OTT space. So they lost, that's about 1 million subscribers that moved on. And then Roku kind of doubled down and they bought a DSP, that's called a demand side platform, just a way of buying inventory. They bought DataZoo for $150 million. This is the last 30 days. I mean, Amazon got into streaming service. They have IMDb TV. I just mentioned Apple, Facebook Watch. Has anyone heard of Facebook Watch? Disney is now getting into it. It's only going to get more fragmented, and that's why you need to have an attribution model in place to where you're going to be able to identify, well, where do I need to put those dollars, or what's the best place to spend my media? Great thing is with ABC 10, you're automatically in all those streaming services because on that live feed, your ads are being shown to all those subscribers. So where else can we place your ads? Where else are you going to see a good return from your ad spend? So I'm going to turn over to Jess, just going to kind of walk through a little bit after. Sorry, we have to say this quote though. Has anyone ever seen this quote? Mm-hmm. Is this anybody's business in here or agency? Okay. We're going to try to help shine some light on how you guys can kind of identify what half of your advertising dollars are working for you. Does that sound good?
Great.
All right.
And what's so remarkable about that is that we just talked about technology explosion, right? There is more ways to consume information than ever before, and yet we still have the exact same problem that we've had 70 years ago. We don't really know what's working, and we don't know what's not working. All of you just want to do more of what's working and less of what's not working. So what is attribution, and how can that help us do that? You can't really read a trade today without reading attribution, attribution, attribution. It's kind of like programmatic or automation, these words. But I don't think that there's a really clear universal view, at least in the conversations I've had, on what attribution actually is. So just to level set, so we're all using the same language here, at least today in this room, attribution is the ability to give credit to video advertising for driving outcomes. And what are outcomes? Outcomes are what you actually care about. Outcomes are not posting. Outcomes aren't delivery. Outcomes are people, next slide, people going to your door, people going into your store, people filling out a lead form, people calling your call centers. Those are really outcomes, right? And so video attribution is the science and the math of allocating credit to your video impressions in driving those outcomes, right? And what's more interesting about it isn't just saying overall OTT drove this or TV drove that. What about your TV schedule drove those outcomes? Which day parts, which programs, which days of the week? How do you get down and segment it to determine what drove those outcomes so we can do more of what's working, less of what's not? We're really at the very early stages of this. I can't wait to see, the question I get asked is, what's going to happen in 3 years? I'm sure you guys ask that and think about it. It is nobody has a crystal ball today, but this is going to be what we're talking about in 3 years and then some. But we're really at the early stages of figuring this all out. The good news is we have some really good math and some good science to help us get there. So just even going back to the outcomes piece, when we first started, and Peter and I were talking about this earlier, thinking about attribution. Actually, when I started my career, I started working on multi-touch attribution, which was groundbreaking because it was the first thing that wasn't last click, right? I saw a search ad, I went to Google, I looked for your car dealership, I clicked on it, so that search ad gets all the credit, and I'm just going to put all my money in PPC and call it a day. Does that work for your strategies? No, that does not work. And so these new attribution models are what's coming to bear, and there's really been two different kinds of attribution models that you're going to see. One is correlation. So how many people use Google Analytics? Yes. How many people look at their Google Analytics once a week, regularly? And they look, yes, regularly. We all look at it regularly? Great. And I assume you're looking to see a lift in website traffic when you run a media schedule, right? So this is what the correlation attribution models are doing. They're really in slightly more sophisticated ways, definitely more beautiful ways, easier to read ways than you going in and sort of, okay, I ran a spot time here, where's the spike, right? It's a little bit easier than that. They're really looking at your spot times and then looking at a lift in website traffic or potentially location visits. And there's lots of really cool companies that are coming out to do it to make it really easy for you so you're not doing that analysis, right? And companies like TV Squared, Analytic Owl, there's a company out there called Veritone. It's in the marketplace today. You're going to hear it from Sinclair, you would hear it from iHeart. There's other companies that are really using this model. And I'm not here to say this is the wrong way to do things. There's a lot of merit and a lot of interesting elements of the correlation-based analysis. Direct-to-consumer campaigns, like if you're an Untuckit or if you're Peloton and you need data right now, this very second by second to make a decision, this is a really interesting way to do that. right? But it doesn't. It's not necessarily completely accurate because you're just looking at a lift. Who was it to say that you're running at 6 a.m. on a couple of different television stations, or you're not running on the radio and on television, right? So just the lift in website traffic is what we've been doing forever, and it's definitely more sophisticated than it used to be, but it's still similar to what we've always done. So that's the correlation piece.
I like to refer to this as the DIY method of doing attribution. Because we've all been doing it. She used the example of going into Google Analytics, and I mean, this sounds crazy, but I mean, 15 years ago when you guys were probably shifting some of those dollars from print, anyone do Yellow Pages in here? Is anyone going to raise their hand? Or okay. So remember the Yellow Pages, your attribution model was that phone number that was in that ad. Then this small company that's based down the street in Silicon Valley called Google came out, and now we have a search engine that, you know, she mentioned as far as last click attribution. We look at analytics. Okay, we've been doing this kind of method, I mean, for well over a decade. Okay, so I think now that the technology's involved, then we get to closed loop attribution.
And so there's a couple of companies that have come out there. Tegna Attribution, the product we're going to talk about most of all today, is a closed loop attribution model. So what does that mean? What we're trying to do, and what we do, is we take one single data stream and we measure viewership metrics, and then you close the loop with one single data stream to outcomes. How many people saw your ad and how many people walked into your store. One single data stream. It isn't looking at a spike or a lift or correlation. It's actually one single data set. So we partner with a company called Alfonso, and we'll talk a little bit about them to help bring to bear Tegna Attribution. There are other companies out there that are starting to do it. Data Plus Math is one that's doing it in the local space, but their data set is a lot smaller than what Alfonso offers. And then on the national space, there's other companies out there that are doing closed loop attribution. But Alfonso is really the big fish in the local markets. If you're looking at local television, you would want to look at Alfonso's data set. At least that's what we've determined. So let's take a look a little bit on what closed loop attribution is and what Tegna attribution is.
Here's Brad. Like millions of Americans, he's watching his favorite shows. And he's also been exposed to advertising. Now, as an advertiser like Friendly Automotive, you know he saw your ad, along with millions of other people. So the scale thing, well, it's covered. But how do you know your ad worked? I mean, really worked. Did it drive Brad to your website, or even in store? Traditionally, this type of measurement has been reserved for digital media, until now. Welcome to Tegna Attribution, powered by Alfonso. Tegna's bringing you a new technology that connects your TV or OTT ad directly to the consumer journey. It works by utilizing the IP address of smart TVs and is able to keep track of what the viewer is watching. Think of it like this. Google understands web content and what people are searching. Tegna Attribution understands TV content and what people are watching. So, back to Brad. He's kicking back in his living room watching the evening news and sees a Friendly Automotive commercial. Tegna Attribution can track his TV viewership. Plus, since he's watching a smart TV, we can connect his TV viewership data with all the other smart devices in his house, like his mobile phone and tablet, using his home's IP address. Brad pulls out his tablet and goes to friendlyauto.com to check out the sales available this weekend. An embedded website pixel on friendlyauto.com allows Tegna Attribution to recognize Brad and know he recently watched the evening news. The following Saturday, Brad goes to the Friendly Auto dealership to test drive his dream car. Tegna Attribution uses data from his smartphone GPS to know that he went to the dealership. So, now that you know how it works, what's in it for you? Proof that your media is working. You'll be able to share website metrics, such as lift in traffic, which pages were viewed, and even track the number of lead forms. We can also attribute website and location visits to specific TV schedule details, like which show a viewer watched, what day of the week, and how many times a viewer saw an ad. And did we mention this technology is also available across Tegna's Premium OTT platform? All of this data allows you to prove the value of your media and make data-driven decisions to maximize the impact of your marketing budget. We're so excited to bring you, our valued advertisers, the new Tegna Attribution solution. With access to over 34 million households and 200 million unique devices, we believe this is a huge leap forward into the future of TV advertising.
So is that the same thing as Google Analytics? No. That's nothing like, what do you guys think? Cool?
Very cool.
I
So
think
Big
it's
Brother
really
watching,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so just to recap, I want to make sure we're really clear on what we're talking about here. We're really measuring 3 things, right? We're measuring reach extension, location visits, and website visits. I know you want to talk about reach extension?
Absolutely, and I mean, obviously linear, using ABC 10 here, it's going to be the best bang for your buck as far as your reach. What we're seeing is, with a lot of the campaigns that we're running, is we're measuring what is the unduplicated reach by OTT viewers. And we report back on that, so we have a couple examples that we're going to show you with how little overlap that there's going to be between your linear viewer and your OTT viewer. So it's actually a great addition, as far as an extension to your linear buys.
And then for website visits, we don't just say 100,000 people saw your commercial and then they went to your website, but we can say 100,000 people saw your spot on the 6:13 a.m. break, and of those people, they went to your website. 1,000 people went to your website. Of the 1,000 people, 100 people filled out a lead form. And then you can tell us, of those 100 people, we made X amount of money, and we could close the loop entirely and figure out, trace it all the way back to the 6:13 a.m. spot, or whatever it is. So it's not just did they go to your website, but what did they do on the website? Are they responding to the creative? Are they going deeper into your website? Are they more qualified visitors? So we could see that kind of detail. And then for location services, Alfonso partners with a company called PlaceIQ for location services data. They also partner with some others, but that's sort of the heart of the data set that allows you to say, 100,000 people saw my spot and 250 people went into my car dealership. 250 people went to my furniture store. If you have a brick and mortar location. If you're a services company, nobody's going to your office, I hope. But if you're a brick and mortar location, we can track visitation into that. We can track frequency. So on average, we're sending people 2.2 times to a car dealership, right? We can look at metrics like that with location visits as well. So these are the 3 KPIs, and as Peter mentioned, we're going to give you some examples of real life businesses that we've worked with.
Are there any questions around this? How it works, the data comes back.
What's the opt-in process like for, getting the smart TV IP address, and what percentage of people are opting in, and then how does the opt-in process work?
It's a really high percentage. So who's bought a television in the last, 6 months? Okay, so you come in, you're so excited. Just come back from Costco, you've got a new TV, you plug your TV in, you set it up, and there's, 6 different menus? Right, and you just want to get it going. So you say yes, 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 yes. It is an opt-in, though. I want to be really clear. It's an explicit consent-based opt-in. It is not an opt-out that you are going through in your setting up your television. And you can all go home if you have smart TVs. I think, does everyone have a smart TV? At least one somewhere. You can go into the menus and you can opt out of the technology. And we call it automated content recognition, or ACR, is the technology you'd be opting out of. But it's high 90s. Yeah.
So how do you, if you're not buying into smart TV and you already have a smart TV, how do I know to opt in? Is there?
Yeah, so there are multiple ways that this data is collected. Smart living room devices, so if you have a Slingbox, for example, or if you have a TiVo, that data is being collected there as well. I'm going to skip it because I want to answer this. So nationwide, Alfonso's measuring 34 million homes, about 1 in 4 TV homes nationwide. In Sacramento, we're measuring 459,000 homes. Nielsen is measuring 1,100, probably. Nielsen projects that there's 1.4 million TV homes in Sacramento. So Alfonso's measuring about a third of them, 34% of them. So you're not getting 100% of the market. We're not, but I'm a data gal, and I feel really good about 469,000 TV homes. I feel really good about it, particularly when you stack it up against 1,100. So we won't get everybody. If you have a smart living room, certain smart living room devices, we can collect data, same kind of data off that. Most of it's smart TV data.
Is it collecting demos too?
It is not. It is not. And it is household based, not person based.
Okay.
Again, to the privacy.
So like if I bought a Roku, is the Roku essentially like opted in unless I choose to opt out? Or that's just it's
No, everything is an active opt-in.
Okay.
It is always an active opt-in.
Okay.
And you can always opt out. And Roku isn't one of the partners, but if it were to be, if a TiVo or whatever it is, you can always opt out. They're very careful about that, and Tagda cares a lot about that. We really want to make sure, and we really care a lot about that. We want to make sure that people are comfortable and and there's education that needs to happen on this, but it is 100% opt in, at any point in time you can opt out of it. Okay, I want to go back. So I just want to recap how the tech works. We're not going to get into it in too much detail because I think you guys great questions, already get the gist of it. But so spot errors in the morning. Brad watches that spot, right? We know his IP address because he watches on a smart TV. He pulls out his tablet. His tablet has a website pixel on his tablet, or I'm sorry, the website has a pixel on the website. We know that Brad watched a spot and then went to the website. Brad gets in his car on Saturday. He goes to the dealership. He has location services on his smartphone. We know that Brad saw the spot and then went to the dealership. And then we're closing the loop with reporting through our partners. So that's the gist of what this technology is doing. Does that make sense? And I say Brad, but just to be very clear, it's household, it's anonymized. It's not Jessica Daigle who lives at 1656 Beekman Place. That's actually my address. It's, it's anonymized, 150,000 households, whatever it is. Any other questions on this piece of it? This is brand new. Yeah?
What if there are multiple televisions in the home and they're not smart TVs, so that viewing isn't going to be included in any of that?
Yeah, so like I don't have a smart TV in my basement, but I do in my living room. My living room television will be captured. My my basement television will not be captured. And it just, what I find solace in is knowing that a third of the viewing is being captured. And so when you're doing any kind of statistical modeling or forecasting or reporting to you guys, that's really accurate. The base of data that we have to work off of is huge. So we can get really accurate.
So is it one-on-one reporting? I mean, it's actually Brad, because you only have a third of the home. So that means 2/3 of the people that saw our commercial and went to the dealership won't be counted.
Yeah.
It's only if that third saw it.
And then we model it. So we have enough data to model from there.
So there isn't, so
Yeah.
you do reflect it out, so it's not a one-to-one.
Yeah, because I don't think it'd be that helpful for you to know. It's not 100, so there's a word that we
So if you say 20% of that 1/3 homes saw the commercial and went to the dealership, you're gonna say 20% of the whole DMA is going to go to the dealership?
In very simple terms, yes, but the modeling is way more sophisticated. So we look at viewership patterns, we look at regions, we weight it based on what we know about it. So it isn't just a multiplier.
Okay, so you're weighting the third of households' actions to the rest of the community.
Correct. Okay. Just to get you as accurate as possible. It's not 100% bulletproof.
Right.
It's definitely more sophisticated than what we've been doing forever, which is looking at our Google Analytics. Mm-hmm. And we're live with 150 clients currently right now. And it gives us incredible data to make really good decisions off of. So we can make our dollars work harder for us. But is it perfect? Maybe in 3 years when I get to come back and hang out with you guys, we'll get closer to perfect.
I mean, there's not a perfect attribution model out there right now.
No, there isn't.
So as far as with the amount of data that we were able to get, I mean, this is the biggest data set that we can use in order to make those, to report back.
Is there another question? Do you have a question?
Does it time out from the exposure to the ad at 6:13 and visit the website the next day? Still can track that.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is called a conversion window or an attribution window, and you can set that variability based on the kind of business. So if you are a Jack in the Box or a QSR, it's going to be short. Oh, I'm hungry, I want to go get a burger, right? You kind of want to do that quickly. If you're doing a whole new HVAC system, that's going to be a longer window because there's a brand awareness element. So it depends. We can set it variable. We generally look about 15 days is where you're going to capture 85% plus of the conversions appropriately. If you go beyond 60 days, then you're getting a little greedy.
And then if we have a client with website already established and we want to start this program to add the tracking pixels, it's just like adding Google Analytics tracking pixel to the website.
It's
Absolutely.
very simple. Yep.
Takes 5 minutes, copy and paste, done.
Nice.
And we say it's simple. Gosh, how many times you have a hiccup with technology all the time? So it should be simple, but sometimes it's not. And we are here to help troubleshoot that. We troubleshoot with our clients all the time. That's not a problem. All right. So the results. So I got too excited. Had to talk a little bit about the results early. 1 in 4 TV homes across America. 1 in 3 TV homes here in Sacramento. I just want to pause and just talk about Alfonso and the partnership, and then what we've done as a company since it's pretty new to this market. So 2.5 years ago, we discovered Alfonso. They're actually down the street here. They're your neighbors. They're in Mountain View, California. I was there. I drove from there to here last night. We discovered them through a company called Touchdown Ventures that Tegner works with to find upstart young companies in the industry, that could be interesting for Tegner and for our clients, really. And we've been working with them since then in a pilot fashion until earlier this year. So we were piloting in 3 or 4 of our different markets to get all the kinks out. I think that's really important, because if you're looking at bad data and you're making bad decisions, we can't have that. So we've spent our time doing this in a very disciplined and rigorous way to ensure we've gotten all the kinks out. And then at the beginning of this year in March, we started rolling it out into our top markets. It's not in every one of our markets, it's in our top markets with our biggest and best clients and our strongest sales organizations. And so we rolled out here September 22nd or something like that in Sacramento. So that's a little bit of the story of the background, just so you know that we have a lot of experience. And you can see it, we have 150 active clients. I think 3,000 ports is probably pretty low. That's what I could pull out of the system today, but there's probably far more than that. And in terms of outcomes we've measured, this is also a sampling. This is not everything. I know that we've measured 3.5 million location visits for car dealerships. I know that we've measured 7 million website visits across, that's really only the last 6 months. So those numbers are much lower, but you can tell, we know what we're doing with this data. We know how to look at the data and tell you what's meaningful, what's not meaningful, how long we need to look at it, and we have a lot of experience with it. Anyone add, Peter?
I mean, I think the location visits, we have a couple of case studies that we're going to show you, but that's just when you can, really see a good ROI from it. I mean, it's really from people physically walking into your store. It's what's going to kind of help you make those data-driven decisions on where to place your media.
All right, so we're going to give you some examples, case studies, and hopefully clients like you guys. So this is a dental implant company in Houston, and this was in 4th quarter of 2018. There was a little thing called political. Do you guys know anything? Have you ever experienced that pain in this market? And so they just couldn't afford the same amount of media as they normally would on the TV side. So they decided to try Premion. It's a great time for them to try Premion. They added Premion, and initially, I know you don't like me to tell this part of the story, but I'm going to tell it. They didn't think it worked. It didn't work. Our call centers didn't ring. That's the way we measure. That's the way we measure activity. That's the way we measure traction. It didn't work. We had tagged attribution implemented on this client, and we were able to say, you're right, your call centers didn't ring, but you did generate a tremendous number of leads. They generated 153 leads. Now, maybe that's not a lot for some of your businesses, but for a dental implant company that makes $20,000 to $40,000 per patient, 153 leads is huge. They added TV back on once the election was over in December, and they had their very best month of sales ever. They had $1 million month. Do you want to have $1 million month?
Yes.
I want to have $1 million month. So it was a huge, huge success. They've renewed, and this now has become their secret sauce into driving revenue. They actually got underwater with appointments. They had too many appointment requests, so they had to backpedal a little bit, which is all good. It's all good, and now they're back on the air. So this has been this isn't uncommon in what we're seeing.
Well, the perfect example is their prior attribution model is their call center ringing. That was their pulse. That was their gauge on if their media was working. So now that they're able to utilize this, they can actually see, obviously it's not just relying on the call center, but is it the lift and website traffic, the form submissions that are coming in? So that was, we all have those attribution models that we think is how we measure our media buys. This kind of adds just another additional layer for it.
You want to cover this one?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorites. So this was a local location, it was 7 markets. Major markets like Atlanta, Houston, LA, San Francisco, Tampa, and DC. We ran over the course of, it was like 2 months. So I'm trying to read the fine print. So we had talked about incremental reach. We had talked about how little there's overlap between your OTT viewer and your linear buyer. So in those multiple markets, you can see that the market ran across almost 10 million households, 4.43% overlap. So not only were you just, you hit a massive audience with your linear buy, but then you also had that unduplicated reach from your OTT buy. These were people you are not even going to reach, with the linear buy. So that's additional audience that you're not going to hit on other media. So we actually report back on this. I've seen other reports where, you know, and again, the chart kind of shows it right, but this also has to do with your media spend. So if you have a 90% media spend in linear and a 10% on OTT, well, you might not have that, you know, that big of a incremental reach. So just, you know, just to make sure I'm kind of setting the right expectation that, you know, that will go up or down based on what, you know, what your media spend is. Same thing on your linear side of the business. But we've done several, you know, several studies of this, and we just see a huge amount of incremental reach with the OTT with very little overlap. So this is a great addition to your linear buys. This is for an automotive dealership in multiple markets.
And so we've done other studies. We did a case study of 34 different clients during the pilot phase, and local clients. They just a gist of a buy would be they reach 1 million households through TV, a few 100,000 households through OTT, through Premion, and of that 85% plus, they never would have reached without adding Premion. So, and these are clients that are on all stations in the market. So it's not just being on, you know, on our station, it's all stations in the market. You cannot reach these folks without adding Premion. And we all just raised our hands as cord cutters, so we all know why that's happening, right? But it's nice to be able to see it. Now, I think just to double click, I want to make sure we're really clear. Naturally, if you dial up your OTT spend, you start to blanket the market. You're going to reach more than just the cord cutters. You're going to reach people who generally watch other kinds of streaming and cable. So naturally, the overlap grows, but your incremental reach continues to be really strong. You still would never reach those cord cutters without adding Premion as a service. Does that make sense?
Any questions? I mean, I've seen, you know, companies that are spending not a lot of money in OTT see 10% incremental reach. I've seen as high as 30% more on incremental reach just based on kind of where the budgets are.
Well, I think you're touching on probably the magic elixir there, and that is, look, we all know in the linear space, we know what our CPM models, we know what our cost per point models look like, and that doesn't exist directly in the same way. It's 3-4 times as much for an OTT product on a CPM or whatever model you want to look at. And so I think what would really help us, or certainly help, I think any of us navigate this, is to suggest some real-time spending here. For example, here's a client that was spending X, right, in a traditional linear way, but because of the increased CPM or model, whatever you want to look at for OTT, we brought that down. We added this, maintained a comparable budget. I mean, those kind of examples are going to gain a lot more traction with my brain, because I think that's where the average person struggles. Is we all know it will be. I've been fighting for this for, as you and I talked about some time ago. I've been fighting for this kind of model for a long time, but I still feel we're missing a component in the case history to help us detail some real-time expenditures that really effectively alter the buy, a comparable buy, in a way that achieve those kinds of things. You continue to talk in sort of vagueness. I'd love it to be a little more specific.
We didn't want to get into the weeds, and we can get as granular as you want, but some of the data that we get back, it does exactly that. It will say, well, let's just use website visits and in-store traffic. It'll break it out by linear versus OTT. Then you know what your media spend is. So then you can say, okay, well, here's my, let's just call it a cost per acquisition or cost per visit on the linear side. Here's my cost per visit on the OTT side. Where's that magic? Where's that blend that I need in my media? Then you also have data that comes back where, and this might be a poor example, so try to follow me on it. Jess and I are in the people you're trying to reach, and I watch the 6 a.m. news, and then I watch, Dancing with the Stars? Okay. I do
watched
not.
that last night.
I do not watch Dancing with the Stars, but so if I watch the 6 a.m. news and I watch Dancing with the Stars, and then I go to your website, and then I actually step foot into, let's just say it's a rooftop and auto dealership, okay, we call that a conversion. So if Jess watches your 6 a.m. news but does not watch Dancing with the Stars, well, then you're going to over-index on the 6 a.m. news. And then that's the data that we give back. Maybe we should move more of your schedule towards the 6 a.m. news. This is a very simple example I'm giving. Obviously, there's a lot more data. There's a lot more schedule that's in there. But then you can use that data to make what do I need to buy on linear, and then what % of my purchase needs to be on linear versus OTT.
And I presume you're pumping in the entire linear buy, whether it's an ABC product or not, or a Technic product or not.
You'll have all the information on the ABC and the local market, and then we can give you kind of a market overview as a whole.
But
I think the point that you're making, you're talking about CPMs. CPMs don't really matter,
I wasn't talking,
right?
I'm just using that as an example, whether it's CPM or CPM, whatever the level you're trying to achieve an effective reach and frequency and achieve it blending that the new world. It won't be long before those circles are reversed. You know, you're going to see OTT significantly higher than linear, and that's not very far off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's cool about this data is it does allow you to do with that. It can tell you what your cost per acquisition is, your target frequency, and your target reach is based on your cost per acquisition. The idea is lower your cost per acquisition and hit the sweet spot. So I think we absolutely have the pieces to do that. And you're right, this isn't a specific case in that example, but we have the examples to show you on that.
We're kind of just going through the high level view of it.
Yeah.
Also too, does it track if they've seen our commercial and they go to our app, or is it only going to track if the consumer goes to the website?
That's a good question. So what kind of app do you have?
I work for State Mart, so we have our own. We're a grocer, so we have our own app. So if they saw our commercial and then went to our app, can they track it that way, or is it only specifically if they go to our website?
So the default, our sort of blanket, non-custom implementation is to websites. We can absolutely work with you to pull in app data. It just would be a custom special implementation.
Okay.
And I'm committing, I can say that we can do that. We can do that. It's just, it would be custom. It's not something we couldn't turn on tomorrow, but we could work with you to make that happen. And Alfonso is in the national marketplace, so they work with large national customers who care a lot about their app traffic, so they have plenty of experience doing that.
These are great questions. I mean, we wanted to be more conversational, so yeah, we love it. Thank you.
All right, so the last example is a plumbing company. Longtime television advertiser, like many plumbing companies, looking to reach new audiences, grow awareness, generate leads. We were on with them on television for 60 days and OTT. We did TV and OTT together. They were on for 60 days. There was only a 1% overlap. We just looked at a 4.4% overlap. There was only a 1% overlap. So really reaching unique audiences. The budget's a bit smaller. It might be what you expect, but really reaching unique audiences. And from that, they generated 1,300 people to their website. Of the 1,300 people, 250 people turned into leads. They saw a 30% lift in their leads. And they could go back and say, we saw a 30% lift in our leads, and the biggest reason was because of our evening news buys on television, on the TV side. Our 4 and 5 p.m. is what really overperformed for us. And the plumbing company may have originally been really heavy in early morning, right? I can tell you they were really heavy in early morning. And so this was new. This was new information. It wasn't the first day we got the data set back and then we threw out the schedule they'd been running forever and ever, but we start to optimize and spend more money in evening news, less money in the morning, and that allowed us to go from 30% lift to a 40% lift over time. And so that's the kind of example that we're seeing in a plumbing company. And just as a reminder, it's all website if you're a home services company, because there's no location for us to track it. One day maybe we'll track your trucks. But for today, it's all websites. Any questions on this example? Yeah?
Can you track OTT day parts also, the way that you do evening news or
We
morning
can.
news? You can.
We can.
And is that part of the reporting?
It can be. I think what's most important for OTT is your audience targeting. So we like to overlay those insights, as well as the providers, networks, and the sort of secret sauce of what we provide you. But we can provide that. Because at the end of the day, you're just trying to reach an audience. That's the most important part there.
Or where that audience is.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Are there any other questions? This is it. This is the last slide.
I have a question regarding
Yeah.
your location-based tracking.
Yeah.
So you're using PlaceIQ, and I know that in the past we've used PlaceIQ. And we've looked at customer behavior prior to doing an ad, so we're looking at incremental only. Are you guys doing that as well, or is
Yep.
it just all attribution based upon the ad running and them seeing it and coming in the store?
We can do both. So if you want to say first-time visitors, so if you're like a McDonald's, lots of people go to McDonald's. We want to see just first-time visitors into a location. That's a custom request, but we can do it. We've done probably about a dozen of
But even
those.
existing customers, and did they come in for an incremental visit because they saw an ad?
We can
versus
we can track
just,
that.
their regular visit that they come weekly or bi-weekly.
We can track that because we have visit frequency, so we can definitely track that. So the technical difference. So at the end of the day, we've spent a lot of time to vet the technology and to train everybody. So we all know what we're looking at when we're looking at a data set. But it's really about the people, the technology, and the insights that we can bring to you to help you guys make great decisions. And keenly, these decisions aren't just decisions you're going to make about ABC 10, it's decisions you're going to make about your budget as a whole, so that you can maximize your spend and drive results for yourselves. And I could go through each bullet on here why we believe that this technology is the right technology, but I think you've heard enough to know, we have the scale, we have the experience, and we have the people to help you be more successful. I don't know, Peter, is there anything you want to add on this?
Well, the three takeaways that we keep talking about is, the incremental reach when you combine linear and OTT, just the website visits and the full attribution. And those are I think the three takeaways are, how can you implement that into your media strategy, especially going into 2020. This has been the biggest ask from us, from agencies and advertisers, probably at least for the past, 12 months or longer. How can we build out a model so that we can actually, see this data, make data-driven decisions, so that we have a more efficient media buy that's happening.
That's all. That's what we got. There's no other questions? Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you all for coming, and I just wanted to say that Peter and Jessica are actually going to be here through the early afternoon, so we welcome you to stay if you want to stay back and meet with us. And then in addition to that, we're going to be reaching out to you individually to set up times to come by and talk about this with you individually. So we appreciate your time today. Hopefully you guys are as excited about this as we are, so thank you for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.